Hello there and welcome to tonight's edition of the show. Tonight is about the agitations on the labor front. The show tonight has got very little to do with your faith or how skeptical you are, because this matter affects all of us regardless of your social status, ethnicity or the unbridled nature of your political stance. Our children have been home most part of this week, and if nothing drastic happens, they may continue to stay out of the classroom, with some, as we have reported, engaging in all kinds of activities, including climbing trees, in the absence of their teachers. 4 teacher unions, we have NAGRAD, the CCT, NAT, TEU, are currently on strike over cola. Never before in recorded recent history has the cost of things soared this high in Ghana. People have described this situation in different ways depending on the depth of your vocabulary. Some have simply suggested that we are in a crisis of the high cost of living that bites in spite of how much you earn. Other labor unions are demanding 20 to 30% COLA because their meager salaries are being eroded by the current cost of living. Tonight, we speak about the cost of living in Ghana and its biting impact on all of us. The Ghanaian worker is in focus. I have the PSWU, that's the Public Sector Workers Union. I have the Ghana Medical Association. I have the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association and the National Association of Graduate Teachers. And of course, I have you on the other side as well, because we are live on the JoyNews channel. We are on Joy 99.7 FM on radio, together with over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on social media. We are on Facebook, YouTube, name it. On Twitter, you can tweet at us with the hashtag The Probe. I am Emefa Apawu. You're welcome. This is The Probe. You ready? Please give me a minute. I'll be right back.
This is the Ayalolo cluster of schools in Accra. Children in these schools are from
Konkoma,
Agubroshi,
Konkoma,
Jamestown, Konkoma, Adobroshi.
The parents brought them to school hoping they will learn something and become prominent in future. Unfortunately, there are no lessons today. Their teachers are on strike. There are 8 schools here with over 1,000 students. With no supervision from teachers, the pupils are enjoying extended playtime. They are sweating it out in the sun. Others are climbing trees. Some of the children decided to stay at home, but others came to school hoping their teachers would come to the classroom and surprise them.
Ya ba ni echinchin amani ma edinti ama teachers in bus school is yet in a class ni ejimi ni epiepie yanya hye.
Their teachers are agitating for a 20% cost of living allowance because of high inflation, high cost of fuel and goods. The effect of the strike action is already being felt. The third-year junior high school pupils are worried about the absence of their teachers. They will write the basic education certificate examinations in October, so they need quality coaching from their teachers. Ibrahim Mohammed is a JHS3 student of Asha Mills.
How the sisters have went to strike, it has affected a lot. The reason why I said that is because we are the this year BC writers. So if there is no teacher here, so that we can learn small from them, it will affect us. Secondly, we are not even plenty over here. Most of us have went home to rest and come back. Some haven't come. So I think if the teachers can at least come a day or a month so that they can teach us something, so that we will prepare for the BEC. The Excellency Nana Danko Akufado, we the students, we beg you a lot. Whatever you do that to pay the teachers, we are begging on you. Pay them so that they will come and teach us, because we are struggling a lot.
It is obvious that these children need support from their teachers more than ever.
What is your name?
AJ.
So what have you learned today?
Nothing. Just playing around and go home. We won't do anything. Even yesterday when we were here, 2 teachers came, 3. And they taught us only RME and they left. We didn't do anything again. By today, there's no one. They are all nothing. Even our Form 3s are writing their mock, and because of that, they can't write it. They are all playing around. Some even have gone home.
Mohammed is pleading with the president to listen to their teachers.
Our teachers say we are the next generation of them. So if all the teachers are going on strike and we are here doing nothing, and maybe on the 17th of October, we'll go to write our BEC, and all of us feel there's no one to blame than the president, because he's the one who's taking care of the teachers and other school supplies.
Lower classes, the head teachers are in school to ensure order. To pass time, a teacher in Accra Presby School engages the children to sing. Will the anchor hold in this period of their lives when teachers have abandoned classes? The students say the teacher strike is a great source of worry to them, but they're also concerned about the poor infrastructure of their schools. These schools are a debt trap. The foundations of 3 of the schools are exposed and hanging. The pillars could break any time, and this is a disaster in waiting. The roofs have holes in them.
Even our class, when it's raining, we have to move to one place. Even where the teachers have been sitting, it's no good. All the roofing sheets. When it's raining, we can't sit in the classroom. And even the veranda, can't sit here.
2 projects started by the NDC government have stalled for many years, leaving the children in Ayalolo to study in terrible environment. The children are in school, but it is evident that they are not enjoying quality education. If the teacher strike continues for a longer period, these children, who are already disadvantaged, will suffer needlessly. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
You're still watching The Probe here on the JoyNews channel, and it's a double agony for these children that Jojo Kobna has been reporting about. Some of these children just climbing trees, others just playing card games, amongst others, in class because they have no teachers to attend to them. But let's get into the conversation for tonight. It appears it's not just the teachers that are on strike. We are going to have more this week. If nothing drastic happens, we're going to talk all about it. And of course, your concerns also about the general cost of living in the country as we speak. Let me introduce my guest. I have Ben Adeje. He's the General Secretary of the Public Sector Workers Union, joining me via Zoom. I also have Dr. Titus Bayu. He's the General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. I see Madam Rebecca Okrana-Bedu. She is in charge of the gender desk for NAGRAT. And I'm also expecting David Tinkwanchu. He's the General Secretary of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Probe.
Thank you, Emefa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emefa.
Thank you, Emefa.
Yeah, forgive my bias.
And good evening to you.
Good evening. Forgive my bias. I'll definitely go with Madam Rebecca Okrana-Bedu first. But because I need an update on the NAGRAT and other teacher unions strike, because we've been hearing from the president just this weekend asking you to go back to the classroom while you finish with the negotiations. Have you called off the strike?
Thank you, Emefa. Good evening once again, and good evening to my comrades with you in the studio. Emefa, we are still on strike. We have not called off the strike. We are happy that we've been invited for a discussion on Tuesday. We are hopeful that we'll have something tangible to send to our rank and file so that we can call off the strike. We have not called off the strike. We are still on strike.
But one would have thought that just when the father of the land spoke about the situation, you would you forget everything and put on hold the action until you hear otherwise from them? How is it that you are still on strike, just waiting for that meeting?
Emefa, we just didn't arrive at this position. You know, we went through a lot of discussions from the leadership. You know, leadership of unions start from the grassroots. So we have to go back to the same grassroots leadership before we can call it off. So we have heard His Excellency, but we need to consult our rank and file.
Okay, but I'm sure you've been seeing the reports since you've been on strike. I think it's about 4 days or so, and we're entering a new week. Are you not really concerned about what these children are going through, especially when some of them are going to write their BEC as well? To what end? Kola, it's not about your salary.
Yes, you see, the issue about examinations, it's not only this time. We've been writing examination anytime, any point in time, we have one examination or the other. Remember, we have WASI. WASI is quite close, and then BEC is in October. Although you say it's not about our salary, but you see...
Oh dear.
Making sure that the teacher is able to perform well.
It appears that there's a distortion there in Madam Rebecca Okran's connection to us, but we'll try and re-establish connection to her so she can finish that point. But I'll come to you, Mr. AJ, because as the Public Sector Workers Union, you are the next. I'm seeing that you've already issued threats for which reason we're going to have a meeting on Tuesday, but I'm concerned. You are all in Kwewu this year, February to March, and I've been checking. I see that with the PSWU, you say you have a joy in serving the people. Where did that joy go?
Well, thank you very much, Emefa. The joy is still here. We still have a joy in serving the people, and that's what we've committed to doing so far as we remain in the public sector or in the service of the nation. So that joy has not gone anywhere. But you agree with me that you need to be able to take care of your cost of living before you can be able to do that. So whereas we are willing and ready and able to serve the people in joy, unfortunately, we find ourselves in a situation which is through no fault of ours as well, but which requires that as stakeholders, we all sit and agree on the best way to handle this. And unfortunately, this has been long in coming, and the reaction from the authorities have not been swift, unfortunately, and our members would have to now take decisions before firefighting approach comes. It's rather unfortunate. None of us wants us to get to this point, but I believe since we started calling for this, and at the May Day that also came up, followed by a letter, our colleagues, the teacher unions, then followed it up with an ultimatum. Nothing was done until the strike began. It's rather unfortunate, too little, too late. But we believe that we can always put ourselves together and honor the demands of workers, because things keep getting worse by the day, and the cost of living, as you said in your preamble, keep getting worse by the day. And how long can workers survive this? All we are asking simply, as the TUC has written, is that, look, cushion workers. Things are hard. Cushion workers. Otherwise, we don't know how we're going to survive. So we still have that joy. All workers have the joy in serving their country, but we need to take care of our cost of living so that we can do that.
Well,
continue to do that.
It's interesting that we are coming up with all these allowances at this time, because the concern, at least over the period, we've had clock on political neutrality allowance. Has it always been the norm that you're supposed to be getting your cost of living allowance? Just for those who do not know, are you really supposed to be getting it, or is something that we are introducing over the period because of the current economic conditions? Just give us that clarity. Mr. AJ.
All right, so we are not in normal times, Emefa. we have to, once we accept we are not in normal times, then the things we are asking for, this cost of living, should be situated within the context we find ourselves as a country. Okay, it's unusual. If things were going on normal, the economy was being run in a way that we don't have the challenges we have, and workers can make do with the salaries they have. Other issues concerning conditions of service will go through the normal, mechanisms and processes that we have in terms of negotiating for our salaries and conditions of service. But once there is a crisis or things get out of the norm, then it is required that we all show leadership. And when I say we show leadership, I'm talking about the government, I'm talking about we, the unions, I'm talking about civil society, and any group that matters in this country. We need to show leadership. So
but you show leadership by supporting your government in the times that you say are not normal. Because some have said that we've seen COVID, we've seen a worse crisis that had never happened before. You were paid whilst you were at home. So then what kind of leadership are you showing now when you need to support your government at the time that they need you the most?
MFA workers have shown a lot of leadership. Remember that right after the COVID, 2021, 2022, what happened in this country? Government at the negotiations brought the real picture of the economy before us. Okay? We showed leadership even to the disagreement of our members, all right? By accepting 4% for 2021 and 7% for 2022. Even though our members made it clear that the cost of living at the time was just too much. But we had to explain to them, even though they disagreed, that we had to accept this due to what was happening to the economy at the time.
Okay.
All right? What happened after that? Article 71, coup. Okay. That for us was a slap, in the face. All labor union leaders, we nearly lost our jobs. You were here. There was a group that came up, all right, after us, that we have been bought. If government says there's no money, how come they get money to pay themselves all that? And I don't want to go through all the allowances and the freebies that our officials enjoy. No. But I think that did not send the right signals to our people. Okay. And there are a lot of projects and things that government is still pumping money into, which if indeed we are in a crisis, we think those things can hold. You see, you need to prioritize your things. So right now, what is happening is we've not seen a commensurate action on the part of our leaders to show that we are in such a crisis that we have to continue to sacrifice. So all the workers are asking is that, look, yes, we have our salary increase and other conditions of service, but the situation we find ourselves, and because the economy couldn't be kept, inflation has now ballooned. If I'm not mistaken,
we'll get into those details shortly. We'll get into those details shortly,
yes.
Mr. AJ.
So what we are saying is that cushion us. Okay. We are struggling. We are suffering.
We'll get into those details, Mr. AJ. Let me bring in the medical team. Thankfully, we have the medical team on the show tonight. So if there's any issue, they would maybe they will cushion us health-wise. So Dr. Apawu, so a little bird whispered to me that it appears you're also lacing your boots, all 7,000 members in the 10 divisions. You're lacing your boots to also embark on an action. But really, you are doctors. Well, tell us, what's your living standard? I'm sure it's much better than the teachers.
Emefa, I think, thank you. Good evening. Good evening to my co-panelists and to all those listening to us. Before I tell you what the cost of living to our members is, as a union leader, let me help my colleague a little just by explaining what the COLA is. And I should put it on record that the GMA have also made that demand for the COLA. We are part of a bigger group called the Forum, and the Forum has requested for COLA.
Are you also asking for 20% or more than 20?
All of us are singing the same song, and we had wished that government would have started with us much earlier to negotiate and discuss this. But if you look at the technical definition of a cost of living allowance, it's not a normal salary. It's a salary or an allowance given to a worker because of some special situations. It could either be that the worker lives in a particular area where the cost of living there is higher than normal across the country, or there is a situation within the country that has made the worker's salary worse off. So it's usually a temporary allowance. It's not expected to be a permanent feature on our pay slips, but it's to cushion us for the period that we find ourselves in. And the history in this country has demonstrated that successive past governments where we've had very serious difficulties have given this cost of living to labor unions or the labor workforce to help us survive. Okay. When we went for the IMF in the very last one before this, there was a cost of living allowance. And it was just a recognition that when your economy goes so bad, the person on salary, people even struggle to get transportation to work because your salary can no longer take you to work and back. There are people who have parked their vehicles, are using commercial vehicles, and even then it's very difficult. So this is just to cushion us for that period. So government should have met with us much earlier to negotiate a temporary allowance for a particular period that they think the economy will return back to normal so that it cushions the ordinary worker. This is all that we are asking for. And yes, as I mentioned, the GMA, doctors are like anybody else in this country. We are also struggling.
Even the doctors?
Yes, we are all struggling. We are buying from the same markets. We are buying the same fuel. We don't get any fuel coupons. We heard the president say that they are cutting fuel coupon by half.
And he's cut his salary by 30%.
Excellent. And I think they can even do more. You know, cost of living is to survive the ordinary worker, the one who has to buy fuel by himself, who is paying his own rent, who is having no additional allowances. And we have continuously made the case that there's a lot of inequality in this in salaries in this country. The disparity is just too much. This is a time the high earners can sacrifice to support the low earners so that we can at least make it to work every day and put food on our table. So 30%, very good. Reducing fuel by half, very good. But they should take even more measures. But while they take those measures, we should see it cushioning the ordinary worker. The ordinary worker should not be made worse off. They still deserve that cost of living allowance because somebody taking 1,000 cedis now can virtually not be able to support themselves, especially those who don't live close to where their workplace is, to go to work throughout the month, to buy lunch, and all of that. So that is basically what this cost of living is about.
Well, and I'm told that you are, at least my highly placed sources tells me you have given government up to the 1st of August as GMA and the forum.
Yeah, the forum, well, what we have given government up to the 1st of August form is a different issue.
Okay.
But as part of forum, we are all requesting for this cost of living allowance for everybody.
So apart from the cost of living allowance for the GMA as a whole, there are other issues that government also has to resolve for the union. That's 7,000 members of yours. Otherwise, by 1st August, what happens?
Well, so we have communicated it to government and we are hoping that they would act before. They should not let it be like what we have seen with the larger labor union. As my colleague mentioned, these letters to government have been out for a very long time. NAGRAT, NAT, they all made a request. Nobody responded. Similarly, the GMA has written consecutively since the beginning of this year on some specific issues pertaining to our conditions of service that I will not want to discuss here. Some of them we got no reply at all. And government will always wait till you take an action and then they come pleading with the public to make the labor unions look very, very bad. I would say that, yes, indeed, we have given a timeline of the 1st of August. We have met our members. We have sensitized all the members. But since that timeline went out, government has reached out trying to mitigate it. Okay. And since we are discussing, we would want to follow the discussion before we put everything out in the public.
And for your colleagues, your brothers and sisters in the hospital, the nurses and the midwives, Mr. David Tinkran is with us now. We have a stable connection to him. So what's your situation? You also have raised concerns about the cost of living, but at least you're not striking, are you? Mr. Tinkwang, you have to unmute. Okay, it appears that I've just frozen Mr. Tinkwang on his cost of living allowance. But really, for Nagrat, let me come back to you, Madam Rebecca, because we've been hearing from the defense minister. You've also been hearing from the president that they've sacrificed a lot. Dr. Bayu says there could be more. But we are told that the condition or the situation that you're putting us in is more like a national security issue. So going into this discussion on Tuesday, what will make you go back to the classroom?
Thank you, Emefa. We have made our demands clear that we expect a cushioning of about 20%. You know, inflation figures, as the official ones, are giving us 28%. For me, the way I feel in my pocket is more than 28%.
What's the percentage?
So,
what's the percentage in your pocket? Inflation?
When you take the food items especially, MFA, we are women, and you know it's more than 28%. Mm-hmm. When you go to the market, the change in prices is more than 28%. So we expect a minimum of 20%. That's our demand, and we are hopeful that government will listen to our cry and then do the needful so that we can help the kids prepare for the examination.
So going into the meeting on Tuesday, because I know that there was a first meeting that ended inconclusively because you are told that the finance minister's representative did not say anything much about whether you are getting that 20 to 30%.
They came with an appeal.
Mm-hmm. That you should go back
They came with an appeal.
So what if you go on Tuesday and it's another appeal? What happens?
Oh, then that's a non-starter. That's a non-starter because remember, as my colleagues rightly said, we started drumming about this long time ago, since February. We've written letters on May Day. The Secretary General of TUC spoke about it. And even afterwards, we have made attempts. We've shown a lot of goodwill over the period. And the sacrifices we have made to push government's agenda in the educational sector, I think we deserve this 20%. It's the least that we can demand for.
Mm. So, Mr. J, it appears that this issue, did it come up, cost of living allowance issues, did it come up when you were in Kwewu? Because we all came up with the Kwewu declaration. Appears that you were all happy about the situation. How is it then that since that time, nothing was done about the situation? Because there are those who say you are holding government to ransom, seeking to destabilize the entire country that we all love dearly.
Thank you very much, Emefa. I believe by now that assertion by people, from what you know and the submissions myself and my colleagues have made so far, you should know that that assertion is a bit baseless. Now, at Kwewu, what we were looking at in terms of our economy, even though we knew there were challenges, between Kwewu and now, there's been a great or significant change in our economic situation. Yeah, there's been a very great. So at Kwewu, we agreed on certain things to do so that we don't even get to this point. But unfortunately, because we didn't face the realities of our economies, and we were trying to massage what the real situation was. When it started in May, June, I mean, it overtook everybody by surprise. I hope you understand. Mm-hmm. So the decisions we took at Kwewu were very good, but the events, we've been overtaken by events, all right, such that this is a crisis, as Dr. Titus has just indicated, and something needs to be done in the short term to cushion workers. So the COLA is not, I mean, it is to resolve that crisis that we all find ourselves in. And if nothing is done, I mean, the appeal will not work. Our members have spoken, okay? We met on Friday, and our structures are such that even if you, the leadership, you don't organize meetings, okay, or discuss the issues, your members have the power to convene, to force you to convene that meeting. And that's what our members are doing now, all right? And those meetings have been convened, and they have discussed the matters, and they have taken decisions. When it happens like that, you as the labor leader, you have no choice than to move with the decision that your structures have taken. So if we have been a bit proactive in terms of the leaders of our economy in the beginning, when we started, drawing attention to the fact that, look, we need to sit quickly, we need to do something about this. This is what is happening. Also coming from the backdrop of the 4-7 and what happened to Article 71. Quick or immediate attention should have been given to it. So Kwawu has not changed. It's only that we have been overtaken by events. It's a crisis period, and we need to do something, just as we do for other sectors, the financial sector and other sectors that we find very critical and important for the economy, so that when there are challenges, we come out with policies and strategies to bail them out. That is where we find ourselves now. The workers also must be cushioned. Once we deal with that crisis, we can continue with whatever agreement or understanding we had at home. Yeah.
Let's bring in Mr. Tinkrang at this point. Hopefully, we have a better connection to you. Mr. Tinkrang, welcome once again. We're hearing you for the first time on this. But what really is the story of our nurses and midwives when it comes to the cost of living and your demands you're making on government?
All right. Thank you. Good evening. And good evening to my colleagues on the call. Indeed, nurses and midwives are struggling in this economy. As a matter of fact, we started talking to government about the need for government to at least cushion our nurses and midwives. Because you know what? Nurses and midwives occupy the lowest ebb of the pyramid when it comes to salaries in this country. And for that matter, any form of shrinking, any form of economic quagmire that we find ourselves, we are highly impacted. And I can tell you that our members are highly impacted with this economic crisis. And inflation is on the run. The cost of living is skyrocketing. Prices of goods and services have gone up. Okay, so every gain that we made, okay, for the past years has been eroded by inflation. And therefore, it is only important that the government listen to the cries of public sector workers. And of course, and as recounted by my colleagues earlier on, there is no way government can pay cost of living allowance to any group of workers and leave others. You understand? Because we have the same employer and the conditions prevailing in the country is the same. The same way government is going to IMF for a bailout is the same reason that government must bail out necessary midwives in this country, and by extension, all healthcare workers and workers of Ghana.
Glad that you brought in the IMF situation. Government is going for a bailout for all of us to cushion all other sectors. We are told that about 700,000 workers, at least, that we have in the country, you take up, what, 50-something%, about 50% of our entire revenue as a country, for which reason we are in a situation that we need a bailout. Then even before the bailout comes, you're already making demands on the government. We need to tighten our belt. Nurses, you are saying you can't do that. David? Well, David's connection tonight is not helping us that much. But I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay, I would have to move on from you. But I heard him say that nurses, they are lowest at on the pyramid when it comes to their salaries. Are we saying that, Rebecca, your members are paid much more than our nurses? Is that the case? Teachers are getting much more than nurses?
Emefa, you see me laughing. Teachers, we are very low. I mean, those of us in education, we are really, really low. And any action, in fact, for us, apart from the salary, there is nothing for us to even cushion transportation and all those things. We have to bear it ourselves. And you can imagine, look at where teachers are found. There are places in Ghana where you will not find other workers, I don't want to mention, but teachers are found at every corner. Some have to cross rivers, some have to walk, some have to, use all manner of vehicles to get to their schools. So, in fact, we are really, really hardly hit by this economic crisis. And remember, we have negotiated for 2022 salaries, and there is no way we can get any salary increment till next year. So this one is just to cushion us for this period. And then when we go for salary negotiations, we'll take it from there. So COLA is nothing new. COLA has been paid by previous government, and it is something that is paid to help workers reorganize themselves and then wait for proper salary negotiations.
Okay, but I don't know if you are all able to be frank with us and maybe just tell us, at least the last time the GMA elected a new president, we're told that the average doctor was earning just about 5,000 or so. My math's not too good, but maybe you've worked it out already. How much really is this COLA? If you are paid to a doctor, for instance, how much of that, the 20 to 30%, how much will it come up to? What really are you expecting, Dr. Bayu?
Emefa, the salary is a range, and for the doctors, you have, from our entry point, we have the house officers, and they don't get anything close to the 5,000 you are mentioning. The basic salary of 5,000 will be a doctor of a very high standing, minimum close to a level of a specialist or even a senior specialist. So you may get the basics, and these percentages are usually percentages of your basic salary. So you get doctors whose basic salary is maybe in the thousands to 2,000 from the entry point. So a 20% is not that very much significant, but at least it can do something. And it's the reason why the demand is not pay us what the current prevailing situation is. And you remember, when this demand was made at the time, the inflation rate was, the official one, was around the 20%. As we speak today, if we were to look at today's inflation, really, we shouldn't even be negotiating from 20%. We should be going higher. And I just want us to realize that, yes, you made a point that we are going to IMF and it's a struggle and all of that. These are the people who will generate the revenue that the country needs. We cannot generate the revenue without our labor force. And I think the leadership of our country always play against the union and get everybody along. And then we look like demons that we are taking majority of the cost. Emefa, the data available to us shows us that now, of all our revenue coming in, significant percentage of it is going to interest payment of loans that the country has taken. Was that the worker who contracted a loan? How prudent was the loan? Why are we not trying to find out how we can reduce how much loan we are taking and what we are using the loans for, so that the amount going into interest payment comes down? We are not looking at that end, and we are only looking at how to worry the ordinary worker who is struggling. Now, there's a lot of leakage in the system. Why are we not looking at closing that leakage? We saw the notice from Occupy Ghana that tells us that if the Auditor General was to do the proper disallowance and surcharge and retrieve money, it is in excess of what we are going to get from IMF. These are the hard nuts government should be cracking. That's why we've elected them as our leaders. And playing the whole population against us, showing stories of people who cannot write their BEC because they are not being taught. What about, why are we not doing stories of the teacher who cannot get transportation to get to that school?
Well, we've told
such stories. Why are we not doing transportation about the doctor who may not be able to pay his rent? Or the doctors who are joining public transport and may get late to a case, and therefore by the time they get there, an emergency has occurred and something bad has happened.
Doctors are taking trotro.
People have parked their vehicles. Emefa, you cannot buy the fuel. We all know that. So we are asking for a cushioning. We are asking for a support that for the purpose of this emergency. As it is today, people who sell, traders, they will just adjust their prices to make up for their current cost of living. We in the public sector, our salary was negotiated and tied down in 2020. 2021, we are in 2022, you can't do anything about it. And look at the situation. Is it not just fair for us to ask for something to just help us make ends meet? I think it is fair. And we should put the hard questions to government instead of letting the worker look bad, as though we are insensitive, we are in a crisis. We are in crisis. How many of the V8s have been packed? How many of the entourage that move? One member of government is moving, 20 vehicles are running, all of them full. How many have they changed to saloon cars because we are in crisis? I mean, they have cut it by 30%. We welcome it. That 30% should be channeled to the low earner worker. They should find out where more they can reduce and cut losses, and whatever earns is brought in should cushion the ordinary worker. Then the worker will be motivated to generate the revenue we need to reduce how much we are borrowing.
Okay. Well, Mr. J has been doing the calculation, but let me bring in Mr. Tinkwine on phone this time because we have a terrible connection to his Zoom. But Mr. Tinkwine, most people disagree that the nurses may be at the very bottom of the salary pyramid, if we come to that. But there are concerns, strong suggestions that labor may be, you are actually earning more than you are doing in terms of the actual work that we are supposed to be seeing from you, such that you're making such demands on government. Is that accurate?
It's unfortunate that people should have that perception. It's not true. And as recounted by President Kufuor sometimes, we pretend to be paying workers, and workers also pretend to be working. I can tell you that some of the workers, including nurses and midwives, are breaking their back. Okay? If you go to hospitals and you see how these nurses are working, these midwives, community health nurses, crossing rivers, some of them being drawn and the rest of it, nobody will suggest such a thing. But you see, on a more serious note, the government should not quick public sentiments against workers. We are in a serious crisis. I've said earlier on that every gain that we had in our previous salary negotiation has been eroded. And therefore, government must invest in productive sectors. I mean, look, we go for loans and then we come and blow it away. Look, I was reading a Corruption Watch's summary about the Auditor General's report. The amount of money, colossal amount of money that has gone wasted. If we were to direct these monies into productive sectors of the economy, we'll be able to grow this economy. Okay, so we shouldn't use salaries of workers as though that is what is crippling the economy. That is not the case. We should stop loose spending and direct our resources to where it matters most. And I'm telling you that as far as we health workers are concerned, and for that matter, nurses and midwives are concerned, nobody can belabor the point that we have not increased productivity. We work our ass out, and I believe that even the internally generated funds at the various hospitals will confirm this. Do you understand? So I don't want to buy that idea at all. So government, what we are asking government to do right now is to be able to cushion workers of this country. All the time. Look, if I tell you challenges that workers have, you'll be amazed. Find out whether even workers' pension has been paid. It's in arrears of about 8 months. Ma'am, you are not paying me well. The basic salary that you are paying me, a little of which is deducted to take care of my pension. That pension is in arrears. Instead of government paying
what explanation has been given for that? What explanation has been given for that?
Instead of government paying to the various schemes for them to invest for their members, because you see, whatever take home they will go with will depend on the investment decisions and the returns thereof. What government is telling us is that there's no money. And meanwhile, you have deducted the money already. So all the time, workers should buy the bullet while others are living large. That is simply unacceptable.
Well, let me bring this in quickly also. You were paid some COVID insurance. Did you get to be paid, all your members, were you paid this particular COVID insurance? Because you're getting reports from Kolebu, for instance, about concerns of this particular insurance not being paid.
I'm happy you have raised this. We have myriad of challenges. It was never paid.
It was never paid?
Majority of the people didn't get it. I know several people who died, nurses and doctors who died, and their relatives never got the insurance. Okay, and even those who fell sick, because you see, don't forget that the insurance was in stages. I mean, those who were severely ill, who ended up at ICU, and those who died. I'm telling you that majority of nurses and midwives never received it. Even the 50% basic salary that was supposed to be advanced to those who were taking care of our COVID patients, most of them didn't get it. Okay, so you see, we are challenged with a lot of things. And if things continue this way, okay, it will not augur well for that is why people are leaving. Let me fact, several nurses and midwives are leaving this country. And it's even the more reason why it is imperative for government to even look at the condition of service for nurses and midwives. Apart from this cola business that we are talking about. Nurses and midwives are leaving. When the pandemic broke out, several people in the United Kingdom who were nurses decided to even resign from the NHS. And because of Brexit, some nurses also have left the UK to other jurisdictions like Australia and Canada and the rest of it. So there is massive shortage of nurses and midwives in UK, in Ireland and Wales. And our people are leaving, and of course, nobody can stop them from traveling.
Do you know the numbers? Do you know the numbers that have left so far? Have you been able to quantify? Because I see that your abroad group, you have like 3,000 on that group. So how many of them would you say have left over the period? Are you able to tell?
Emefa, in 2019, 900 nurses and midwives left this country. In 2020, about 1,000 left this country. Now, let me fast forward. We don't have time. First quarter of 2022 to 1st January of 2022 to 30th June of 2022, I have evidence to show you that more than 3,000 nurses have left the shores of this country to other jurisdictions. And they will continue to go. The Ministry of even selling clearance form. They are supposed to buy a certain form. It's known as clearance form to clear themselves before they leave the country. It was being sold for 200 Ghana cedis, like 20 Ghana cedis. They moved it to 100 Ghana cedis, thinking that would deter the people. Even if they take it to 10,000 Ghana cedis, people will buy it and leave the shores of this country. That will not be a deterrent.
You should be encouraging them to stay. You should be encouraging your members.
And they will stay.
You should be encouraging your members to stay whilst you negotiate with government on this. But let me ask. Let me ask Dr. Apawu.
But my dear sister, if they know people who have retired as nurses and midwives and they are pauper, what motivation will they find in such a situation? So I'm not saying that they should go. I advise them, admonish them, stay, let's serve the country. We have to stay to build the country. But I'm saying that that admonition is not enough because that doesn't take them to the market.
Yeah, sure. Dr. Apawu, how about your members? We've heard the nurses, most of them were not paid the COVID insurance. We are told about pensions in arrears. Because I know that COLA is just the tip of the iceberg. Workers are just, latching on to COLA for now. There are bigger issues with workers, like you've been saying. What's the condition? Have you been paid? Are your members getting this COVID promises that were made during our fellow Ghanaian broadcasts, amongst others?
So just like David said, I can confirm that there are doctors who, by definition or by the criteria, did qualify to get these insurances that have not received. And I can also confirm that some doctors have received some of the insurance benefits, but not everybody who was entitled did get it. That I can say for a fact. Also, I can also state that quite a number of doctors are leaving the country, and it's because it's usually a matter of a pull and push. There is a great pull from external sources because of the high demand. The stress COVID has brought on the health sector of these developed countries is such that they've opened up and made immigration rules very simple for healthcare workers to immigrate there. And unfortunately, we are also now pushing them out of our country by these very terrible conditions of service under which they work. The economy and the difficulties that people are facing, it's very difficult to convince anybody not to go. I once said that I know medical students, I teach in a medical school, who have formed groups and are already studying for exams, licensing exams of foreign countries like the US. You will see a study group, they study for your exam and they also study to write the US medical licensing exam, which means right from school, they've made up their mind to exit this country. And it's all because of the conditions under which we work. So there are really a lot of issues.
Well, already the patient-to-doctor ratio, very, very poor. How many
Very poor.
doctors? How many doctors would you say we've lost because of the economic conditions as we speak? Have you been able to quantify at least for this year, for instance?
I'm unable to give you a figure immediately, but I can say that in some departments and units that I'm aware of, you would go to a unit and within this year, 2-3 doctors have left already from the unit. And when it comes to our patient-to-doctor ratio, it's even worse outside of Accra. So there are whole districts where you will struggle to find a single doctor, which means that our battle about universal health coverage is a serious problem if we do not improve on the numbers and the equitable distribution of these doctors and healthcare workers in general. So I would just say that the situation is serious and government needs to sit and look at it carefully. COLA is a temporary measure that all workers in this country need because they cannot increase their salary on their own. They cannot get any additional means of cushioning. And if you want the motivated workforce to take us out of this current crisis, we need to cushion the worker so they can give up their best. The last thing is that Kwewu was about, I think you've made a lot of reference to Kwewu. I just want to bring something up.
Yeah.
Kwewu, we agreed on productivity, increasing productivity. All of us agreed to that. And it was a duty of the employer to make sure they create the enabling environment, monitor the worker, and ensure enhanced productivity. We never signed on to anything in Kwewu that says that the worker should be made worse off, there should never be any salary increase, or when the economic condition worsen, the worker should be a pauper. No, we never signed on to that. We committed to increasing our productivity, and that is a key to improving our situation. Pay us well, motivate us, and demand us to produce, and we'll continue to produce.
Well, productivity, Bernard, would you say that since Kwewu, productivity has improved such that anything you bring to the table, government ought to listen and give it to you? You may not have signed on to being a pauper amongst others, but you signed on to be productive. There are concerns, at least the doctors and nurses, we can see them most of the time in the hospitals working. But for the public sector workers, most of your members, we are told that go to work and nothing really is happening. You are not being productive as you ought to be. You dispute that?
Yes, vehemently. I vehemently dispute that because, Emefa, let's put the discussions in context. One, you are touching on a number of things that requires time for us to engage, which you don't have right now.
Of course.
And the whole world is listening to us. So it may be a bit unfair because we may not be able to really make our point and argument. Now, to the issue of productivity. Productivity is not just us going to work. That is just one part of it. There are several things that go into productivity, including the resources, okay, and other things. I mean, what plans, what programs, what strategies have been put in place. So you don't just say, because I have employed you and I put you there, productivity come. When you cannot even give me money for goods and services, I can tell you on authority, go to NCCE, go to GBC, go to other public service, and people are using their meager salary to do official work because they love the work. That's why I'm telling you, the joy is still there. But we are in a crisis. Whereas we've made noise about these things and the appropriate and proper attention has not been given to them, we still do our best to work. But when it gets to a crisis mood, we don't want it to be the time that we raise normal things that we have to deal with. For me, conflict or crisis is very good because it also offers you opportunity to know that the line you are towing, the way you are going, you need to look at it. And as a country, we have never really gotten it right in terms of paying our public sector workers very well. We've not gotten it right. Single spine has failed. We are trying to salvage it, but it has not addressed the income issues of the ordinary Ghanaian worker. There's a committee trying to do something. We are waiting to see what will come out. But I can tell you for a fact that I don't believe that will solve our public sector remuneration challenges. So we need, after we go through this crisis, or even within this crisis, we need to agree that, look, we can't be doing the same things and be expecting different results. The results we are expecting, okay, compared to what the things we are doing are not commensurate. So there needs to be a change. There needs to be a change so that we do things properly, pay our public sector workers very well. We are using the single spine now. It's abysmal. Look, the lowest, the base pay on which we negotiate currently is just about 306 cedis a month. When you say it, government will tell you, but there is no worker on the base. All right. I think the first group starts on the third level. But if it's at 306 a month, a Ghanaian worker should earn 306. That's the base. If somebody is even up, maybe 400, 500 a month. In this economy, tell me that person is staying somewhere at Denta or OEB and has to go to the ministries or Central Accra to work. 500. Where is his TNT? Where is his, food money? Where is his rent? How will he survive? So we are in a crisis. We have challenges and difficulties. And as a country, we need to come to the point where we agree that we can't continue to run this country the way we do. We need to accept our Constitutional Review Committee, which has done a wonderful job. We have put it aside, and we put the recommendations and work of the National Development Planning Commission aside, and we run this country on party manifestos. It's been over 30 years, almost over 30 years of our fourth republic, and we are not getting it. This cycle is every 7 to 8 years. Check your records from 1992. 2000, 2008, 2016, and now 2022. It's a recurring thing. It should tell you, and we keep doing the same things. You understand? And we are not getting it. Can we just accept for a fact that we are not doing this right? Labor, we always say it. We have all our recommendations we've made over the years, in fact, since independence, into economic programs and things. We are not listening to. Every government comes and they decide to do what they want to do, and we keep repeating this cycle.
I promise you that this week,
the right things.
Mr. J, I promise you, I know that we don't have enough time. We have to wrap up. But I promise you, definitely, this is an issue that will be on the table the whole of this week, and you will have enough time to talk about all the issues. Dr. Apawu knows that for a fact. But let me give the final words to Madam Rebecca, and then maybe a little time also to Mr. Tinkran on this, maybe a minute each as we are going into this. If the president is watching, the labor minister, they are all watching you this evening. Madam Rebecca, what exactly will be your message to them as they go into the holiday tomorrow and prepare for the meeting on Tuesday?
Emefa, our message is clear. Those of us in the education sector, we have suffered for a very long time. We have sacrificed over the period. In fact, teaching and learning materials, we always improvise. We use our money. We have been taking care of these kids. Our kids are also in school. And it's time that government listens to us and give us this cushioning so that by the time we go for negotiations, that is proper negotiations for 2023, we are sure that we will be able to provide the services that is needed. We are not going to stop. In fact, as rightly said by our colleagues, in fact, our people are really geared up. And I'm sure you've seen the video on social media about one of our ladies, what she did. We don't, it was not on your platform, but it has been circulating. We don't subscribe to that, but it shows the frustration of the Ghanaian teacher. It shows that we have had it up to the neck, and we are just appealing to the government to just listen to us, and then we'll move on. Thank you very much.
I'm grateful for your time.
Once again, I say solidarity forever.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for tonight's edition. You had Mr. Bernard J of the PSWU, Dr. Titus Bayu with the GMA. We had David Tinkran, also with the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwife Association, and Rebecca Okranavedu with NAGRAT. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company. Apologies to you, Mr. Tinkran, for not giving you the final word. But there's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. A Walk with Jesus is up next. We're talking more money. We're talking tithing. You want to stay for it.